I always believe that you do everything like it's your first time and it's your last time. Because the first time because there's somebody who ain't never seen it before, and your last time because ain't nobody promised tomorrow. So introduce yourself, and for those that don't know who you are.
Introduce myself.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name? No, go ahead.
My name is Kenneth Chamberlain Jr. Many people have said that I am the voice of the people.
Okay.
I don't know if that's necessarily true or not, but I just like to say that I'm just out here doing the work that I feel everybody should be doing. I've always been the type of person to want to give back and want to help out in the community, but I guess I was thrust to the forefront when my father was killed by White Plains police officers. Outside of doing that work, I am a program developer for the Urban League of Westchester, a non-profit organization, and we were just talking about budget cuts with that. And in that capacity, what I do is I run an attitudinal job readiness training program. And what I do in there is, we kind of get individuals better prepared and get their mind set and have them look at the world of employment a little different. But outside of doing that, we give them clothing, we give them funds to go out there and to look for employment. We help with resume building, mock interviewing. And then, of course, I have a caseload of maybe 80 to 90 clients that I have to serve every day, dealing with everything from housing issues to child care issues, you name it. The Urban League kind of has their hand on it, and we really try to help the customers that are out there.
Okay, absolutely. So, Damon, I know you have a few things you want to talk about this week. I know.
No, let's. I mean.
Well, I know. One of the things that has been said is, you are in it for political gains, and you wanted to address that a bit briefly before we get into everything else, so you have time to do that.
Listen. The only political game I need to see is black people having the power that they need to have in this political arena. Like I said, Mount Vernon, if you're looking at Mount Vernon, in which, I think, people have said that for Mount Vernon. Mount Vernon is the mecca of black people. At the end of the day, if you compare the Mount Vernon to all the many black communities throughout the United States, they all have the same thing in common. High crime, schools are messed up, no economic development, and I think it's just not, Mount Vernon is not in a vacuum, but we understand why Mount Vernon and Yonkers and Peekskill and Austin and those areas ended up that way. We know the history behind that. And there are people that, are claiming to be Republicans, and there are people that are claiming to be Democrats that have allowed this to happen. So, when you want to see a city, grow, and you want to be a city prosperous, that's my only agenda. I don't need to get nothing out of it. I could put my paperwork in tomorrow and get a very nice pension, and not have to work for the rest of my life. So I don't have no agenda, no real agenda, but to see black people respected. Because, the reality is that we're not respected. See, people think we're respected, but we're not respected in the bigger scheme of things in politics. We're not respected at all. They laugh at us. And I've talked to people that are really in the circles, and they told me, they laugh at y'all, because they know that they could grab a Reverend Richardson, or they could grab a black pastor and give them some money or promise them something, and they'll lead the people astray, and elected officials won't stand up for anything. They won't pass anything. They won't step out of the box. I think, especially when the death of Kenneth Chamberlain, It should have been complete outrage from all black elected officials when they heard the audio. But they remained silent, and they talked to Kenny on the side, and pat him on the back, and all this other stuff like that really means anything, but it doesn't mean anything. We have to come to a point, and if we're going to be men, and if we're going to be women, we're going to have to recognize that we have to take our communities back, and we have to understand the political process. We have to learn the political process. It's not about just having jobs, like Reggie Lafayette said, I give jobs, but you don't give justice in your position. And we haven't found justice, and to see, what's his name with the dry Jerry curl? Otis Graham. To see him on News 12 and being a black man and tout Janet Difiore's great accomplishments, it's a shame, man. It's really a shame that there's no outrage. It's really a shame that there's no outrage in this, man. And they didn't even mention anything. They didn't even mention all these cases. The 20th, Michael Sussman's coming on the show, and he's going to give.
Okay.
And he, I was trying to get him on here tonight, but he couldn't make it. But he said the 20th, and he's probably going to take it to a different angle than what we're talking tonight. But we have to continue this conversation because people need to wake the hell up, man. They need to wake up. They need to wake up. This was a slap in the face. It was really, it was a slap in the face to the black community in Westchester County, without a doubt.
Well, actually, Kenny wrote a piece basically ending that Westchester needs to wake up for Black Westchester when it was first mentioned that she was being suggested.
Yeah. Well, let me just say a couple of things here with regard to that. I first want to just say to the people who are listening to this show, imagine getting a phone call early in the morning from a friend who tells you you need to get to your loved one's home or apartment right away. And as you're in the process of asking them what's happening, they just yell out, "Oh my God," and you ask them what happened, and they say, "I think the police just shot your loved one." Just imagine that. And when you arrive at the scene, the disrespectful way that you're treated by law enforcement, the commissioner automatically saying that the shooting was justified without even conducting an investigation, having a district attorney's office say to you that they are promising you a full and fair investigation. And interesting enough, one of the first phone calls that I received was from the mother and father of DJ Henry. And they said to me, do not believe a word that the district attorney tells you. She is going to lie to you and promise you a full investigation, but there will be no fair and full investigation. One of the other people who reached out to me immediately when this situation happened was my brother Damon Jones. And let me say for the record, Damon and I go back into the Sandbox days.
That's right.
Actually, all three.
So for people to act as if Damon had some type of hidden agenda, it was very insulting and disrespectful. And I had to let people know Damon and I have known each other for years. You know, we didn't just meet. And he didn't just come to me because of this situation. He knew my father. Okay? I often joke because Damon followed the same path that my father followed. He was in high school, left high school, went into the military, came out of the Marines, and then became a CO. My father did the same thing. So I often joke with Damon and say, "You're probably my father's son." You know, but the point that I'm trying to make here is that she comes back with no indictment. Let's just look at my father's case. No indictment in the killing of Kenneth Chamberlain Sr. She says that she presented a full and fair investigation. Even when I asked about the racial slur that was hurled at my father, she says that it was used as a tactic to distract Mr. Chamberlain.
Beautiful. And
I figured or hoped at that point when she said that, I said, oh, the black community's got to be outraged about that. The black elected officials are really going to stand up and they're going to say something about that. It was very, very quiet. I think with the exception of maybe one or two, exactly. That's what you heard. Crickets. Okay? No one said anything about it. All right? So when people sit here and they talk about me speaking against police misconduct, brutality, and criminality, or because I'm one of the founders of the Coalition for Police Reform, they put this negative connotation on it, like we're anti-law enforcement. No, that's not what we are. Okay, I always say we're anti-individuals who feel they can do whatever they want to whomever they want.
Right.
So we stand out here on this front line and we fight and we fight and we try to wake a community up to get them to understand that Kenneth Chamberlain Sr., DJ Henry, Christopher Ridley, any of those people that I just named right now could be you or could be your loved one. So why are you not on this front line, and why are you not upset or annoyed at the fact that you have a district attorney who has no history of indicting police officers about to be appointed as a chief judge in the highest court in New York State? Why is that not disturbing to you? Why are you not asking questions or saying, hey, didn't the attorneys for Kenneth Chamberlain Sr. go to court not too long ago, and you had press out there, and yet the only person to mention anything about what took place in court was LoHUD, but News 12 and Fios 1 didn't say a word? I kind of figured something must be going on, and then all of a sudden we find out that Cuomo nominates Janet Difiore to be the next chief judge. That's disturbing, and I keep telling people it's not in line with what we expect from our elected officials.
It shouldn't be in line with what we expect from our elected officials, but it's 100% on line with what we expect and what we know our elected officials are going to give us. And it brings us to, I think, the realization that the conversation in terms of Janet Difiore is an important one, but there's a bigger one than that, and that is, why are we supporting people like Governor Cuomo? So we go out and we are convinced that New York State is a liberal state. New York State is this great pioneering state, and this is where you want to be, and people are going to be fair. It's a democratic state and all of that, and that's all mythology. And if you look at it, you can go to Mississippi, as a friend of mine always tells me, and you can get your felony expunged in Mississippi. You can't get it expunged in New York. There's no expungement. So you have to know Governor Cuomo and have written a big enough check to whoever is necessary to have an audience, and then maybe you get your case expunged, or you can be Scooter Libby with the president, get your case expunged when you're outing CIA agents and things like that. But if you really stop and look at this, why are we supporting a governor who refused to give an independent prosecutor in Newburgh when the city is crying out for one? You have the mayor, you got the chief of police, you got the district attorney, and you have the defense attorneys asking for independent prosecutor.
And the city council too, right? Then the
City council
wrote a
too.
letter?
They said,
Yeah.
please, for the well-being of the people of Newburgh, do this for us. And he said no. Why would you say no if the DA herself or himself is asking for this? And then he turns around as he's reading the tea leaves, as these shootings continue to mount, and you just get more and more and more, and you go from, Mr. Chamberlain to Trayvon Martin to Freddie Gray to all these other shootings that are now receiving publicity because of your cell phone, basically. And all of a sudden, he's willing to appoint Eric Schneiderman to do this job. Now, Eric Schneiderman is our attorney general, And the interesting thing there is that he always had the ability to
Thank you.
investigate police shootings and not limited to police shootings, but all misconduct by government officials, because he has a public integrity bureau, and it's always been there.
Thank
So if you stop and ask yourself, what does the Attorney General's office do? Do you need an state Attorney General's office? Why are we paying the taxes to support one if they're not prosecuting these cases or investigating these cases? So they come out and say, oh, well, now we're going to investigate all police shootings. But when the NYPD came up to Mount Vernon on a drug investigation, and from what I hear from some of my law enforcement friends, that they came up without notifying Mount Vernon Police Department that they're coming up, which violates standard protocol, because you want law enforcement agencies to know what each other are doing so that you have some backup and you don't have friendly fire situations. Instead of doing that, they just came up on their own, cowboys, and ended up killing a person who happened to do nothing other than walk on the sidewalk in the neighborhood. Now, Eric Schneider...
He happened to be in the wrong place. The person they were shooting at ran right in front of him too. So he just kind of was in the wrong place.
He wasn't in the wrong place.
They were in the wrong place.
They were in the wrong place.
Yeah.
They should have never been there.
Yeah.
Okay, they should have never been there.
But
There was no
then they
immediacy on the drug case.
But then they came back again.
Yeah.
And without a warrant, and kicked down a bishop's door.
Because the Constitution is a myth. It's not implemented. And so what we have is that Schneiderman, the Attorney General, says, well, I'm not going to investigate this police shooting. Well, what are you going to pick and choose which ones you're going to take? And somehow you decide not to take this one in Westchester County? How could you possibly go wrong by investigating it? If you find that the police didn't do anything wrong, so be it. People most likely won't even question that. Okay, we tend not to. As you can see now, you're looking at video from a year later in Chicago that shows that the man didn't approach the police. But there was no outcry. There were one or two individuals who pursued that information. So as Americans, we tend to be trusting of government. We tend to think they're telling us the truth, even though consistently they prove that that's not the case. We go to war based on lies, on weapons of mass destruction that never existed. We incarcerate people. Heck, you have people in Alabama, an entire town that was held hostage by a handful of Klansmen that dress up as police officers during the daytime and stand underneath the Confederate flag at night, plant drugs on folks, and get everybody convicted of crimes they never committed. So when you stop and think about that, and if you look at this on a grand scale, forget about your particular town, but if you look at all of the thousands of incidents that happen like this, nobody else in the world would say that that's just a bad apple. Matter of fact, you have these people out in San Bernardino and the people who committed the murders out there, and that is not going to be looked at as a lone wolf, very differently than the man who went into the church in South Carolina and shot everybody while they were in prayer. Now, he's a lone wolf, even though he's been coached by white supremacists. We don't talk about them. They're not terrorists. You don't go to jail because you are a member of the Klan or you've signed up with the National Alliance or something like that. So we don't have these real conversations. And to Damon's point, we used to rely on our ministers to be able to be our voice, but at this point, it's difficult to say that you can trust in any particular individual, whether it's a minister or an elected official, to do that. So you have to we have to go back to our roots and go back to forming strong associations within the community and going out there, educating ourselves, because if you don't educate yourself, then it's just as bad as not voting at all. You walk in there and pull a lever for the wrong person. And letting these parties know that they can't take us for granted and that we're going to block vote. We're going to vote on our issue.
That's
and
right.
Sometimes our issue is going to be one issue.
That's
It's going
right.
to be police brutality, and whatever else happens, you cut your taxes and do whatever else you want, but we're voting on the police brutality line. If you expect to get our vote, then you better be addressing that.
That's right.
So, Damon?
No, listen. Look, that's what it's about. But the problem is, we gonna have to move forward, and the mindset of the people are gonna have to change, and the young people. I think that's what's so important, and that's why they're scared of the Black Lives Matter movement, because young people, it's taking young people to come together in numbers, to actually push the dialogue and push the issue, but. Living in Westchester County, man, we're a funny kind of black people. When me, Mayo, and Kenny can have a press conference, and when you have nothing but white people standing behind you, it's like, do black people actually care that your children are being shot and killed, unjustly by law enforcement, that their children are subjected to neighborhoods that police don't really care about actually policing or crime solving or problem solving. Do black people really care, of the lack of education that their children is receiving? Do black people really care of the lack of economic development? I've been living in Mount Vernon for 7 years now, and it's still the only city with a strip joint going down the main thoroughfare, with over 350 houses of worship
and 400 houses in foreclosure.
Well, not even that.
Yeah,
I'm not even getting to the.
Yeah.
I'm getting to how can a devil's den maintain with over 400 churches? Mount Vernon has more houses of worship than Mecca has mosque. Think about it. So, and not one preacher has marched in front of Sue's Rendezvous. Not one preacher has said that maybe we should move it out of the main thoroughfare. Not one preacher has said anything about a strip joint where their kids walk home from school and is lit up 24/7. Not one preacher has addressed the different shootings and killings that have came out of that business. Not one preacher has said anything. So, we have to understand, no other city will have that. No other community would allow Gizzo to open